What is happening? Elevation Nation. It's been, man, I don't want to do the math in my head, almost 2 years to the day that these two female founders joined Elevation Nation. They were just getting their company off the ground. I think Elevation Nation was your guys' first podcast. And we're 2 years down the road in 2024, episode like 300 and whatever. And you guys have had a lot going on in your life. Millie Blumka, Taylor Borenstein, welcome back to Elevation Nation. We are so pumped to catch up with you guys. What's happening? How's it going?
Good. We're so excited to be back. So excited to catch up and talk all the things.
Yeah,
We're talking all the
having
things.
us.
Of course. We're so excited. I think one of the coolest things, obviously, we love having the podcast to meet new people, but having friends that became friends from the podcast and having you back on to catch up and talk. Obviously, we weren't recording, but we just spent 30 minutes just catching up on life, catching up on our businesses, getting business strategy advice from Millie and Taylor. And I think that's what's really special about having the podcast and making friends with people like yourselves is we all are supporting each other and elevating each other. And I'm excited to have you all back on because a lot has changed. Not only have you guys quit your jobs and gone all in on your business, you had an appearance on a small little show that we'll talk about soon as well. And maybe most importantly out of all of those is you both got married. So in the past 2 years, a lot has changed. We're excited to get into all those details. If you haven't listened to episode 127, the original episode with the Stakt Matt girls, go ahead and do that. But if not, we're going to give a quick recap for you. Millie, can we start with you? Can you give us a quick overview of who you are and kind of what you and Taylor have built at Stakt? And then Taylor, we'll go to you.
Yeah. So I'm Millie. I am originally from Dallas, Texas. I moved to New York after college. Taylor and I actually met at Tulane in New Orleans. Became best friends there, moved to the city, lived together in New York. And before starting Stakt, my background was in sales and partnerships. So I worked at a few different SaaS tech companies in the startup space, and then at an experiential retail startup as well, doing brand partnerships, before Taylor and I started Stakt during the pandemic. But I'll let her intro herself and then can kind of talk through the background of Stakt too.
Yeah. Hi, guys. I am Taylor. I am from New York. And as Millie mentioned, I went to Tulane. After Tulane, I went into sort of finance tech. I worked at Bloomberg. I was in a product management role working with portfolio management tools. So not as sexy as yoga mats. And yeah, we're just excited to be back on the pod. A lot has happened in the last 2 years. So we're ready to get into it.
I mean, you guys are the definition of elevating, right? You had this idea of what you wanted to build with Stakt. I remember you guys were getting in the product all together, right? You were getting things rolling. And 2 years down the line, you guys have made it happen. You've brought it to life. You've seen it in many places that we all go to, which is absolutely incredible. So let's go back a little bit. Walk us through the journey. After the podcast, February 2022, what has transpired? How did you guys make this thing happen? Let's uncover it all.
Well, it's
That's
so crazy because
to think about that the podcast was February 2022 because I'm not sure what we talked about on the podcast then. We barely
that's
had
what
a
I was just about
business.
to say.
Like,
I'm like, what did we even discuss? Because when we think of our business, we did a proof of concept that I remember. I re-listened to our episode and we were talking how we were sold out so your girlfriend at the time, fiance now, couldn't get one. And now it's so like we think of March 2022 as kind of when we like really launched the business.
Yeah, we could take you through kind of what happened after March of 2022 if it's interesting. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah. So February 2022, we go on your podcast that must have launched the business for us and the whole career of Stakt. And for those who don't know who are listening, our hero product, we're a wellness brand. Our hero product is a foldable fitness mat. So That's why we're elevators, because you can stack your mat and get some incline and depth to your workouts with our product. I think that's why you guys brought us on the podcast. So basically, March 2022, we relaunch after that proof of concept that Millie mentioned. We go live with our stacked mat in one colorway. It was iron gray. And we basically launched the brand by way of like word of mouth, TikTok, and hosting lots of events in New York City where we're based. And we started to just gain traction on TikTok, especially was a really big catalyst for us because it was like a funnel to the world without having to pay for influencer marketing. And that's when we first got some notoriety. And we essentially in the summer of 2022, the Shark Tank producers found us on TikTok and invited us to come and apply to be on the show and eventually film for the show. And things changed a lot from there. I'll stop there. But that was kind of the big catalyst 2 years back.
Yeah, I obviously Elevation Nation was the tiny catalyst, and Shark Tank just slightly bigger catalyst, but
only a bit.
Totally get that both
Not
of
by
those
much.
helped. Yeah, kicked Stack off and really got things running for you guys. I want to give you the opportunity to talk about Shark Tank for a minute, for as much details or as little as you want, because I think we all grew up watching that show. At least I know I did, right? Being a young guy interested in business and having a father who was entrepreneurial and had his own business, you watched Shark Tank to see, like, how do you have that American dream? How do you go and start your own thing? Because all too often, I think this is something Parker and I preach a lot on the podcast, is our parents in our communities tell us to be a doctor, a lawyer, a business person in a normal corporation because that's the safe route. And at least for me, seeing Shark Tank in action was the first time I felt like entrepreneurship could be a feasible career opportunity for me. And so to see two of my friends go on the podcast, hold themselves so professionally and charismatically and just elevate Shark Tank to a whole new level was really inspiring for me. I obviously know we talked to you guys and texted you, but just wanted you both to know how cool that was for us to see you both kick ass. Tell us a little bit about that experience. Obviously, it's half business and half showbiz. What did you guys learn from that experience?
It was the most surreal experience. First of all, Taylor and I are both huge fans of the show. So when we first got that email saying, hey, we're interested in you for Shark Tank, it was like, is this real? Is this spam? Like, what's going on? And you still go through like the whole application process. And I think for us, because we were still so new into business, like we had been in business really for like 6 months when we when we filmed. And sorry, I have a dog here. When we filmed, so it really helped us kind of organize ourselves for the business as well, like do all the things that you're probably supposed to do before you start a business. We were able to kind of get everything in line, and the experience itself was insane. We flew out to LA. You're on the set that you see on TV, and you're in this room, and you just feel like you're pitching. You kind of forget you're on TV when you're going through it. Like you're just speaking to 5 people who are interested in your business, and you're just talking through, everything that about, your business like the back of your hand.
Can I ask a dumb question?
Yeah.
You might not even be able to tell me this. I don't know. You might be under like a non, NDA. How did you like memorize all the business statistics that a company, like all the questions that they ask? Because for me, I know I don't have a finance background, and that was always my biggest fear of like going on Shark Tank. I have this great idea. I'm charismatic. And then they start asking me the numbers, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't have that memorized. So how did you guys do that?
Yeah, so the pitch itself, like when you walk in the room and you say your goofy little spiel to the sharks, was something that was obviously rehearsed, and that was like a game of, memory and acting almost. And then for all of the questions, what we did was we basically created a question bank by watching Shark Tank. So we watched a ton of episodes. We wrote down every question that was asked in an episode. And if you do that and you distill it, it's like 20 unique questions. There's not all that many things that they're actually asking. It just comes out in different ways. And then between those 20 questions, we each had our categories. So the things that we each focus on, which still pretty much ring true today in terms of like verticals that we handle. And we created the answers, and then we just like practiced them over and over again. But we also practiced them like with other people so that it would be humane, like the way the questions come out. And one of the tips that somebody had given us before we filmed was when you go into the tank, you're going to get asked a lot of questions at one time. And that's actually, you should use that to your advantage. You should stop and think, I just got asked 3 questions. Which one do I know the best right now? And kind of like push the other 2 sharks to the side. Look at the shark that you want to answer and say your answer for that question. And then they move on, the other sharks. So it's like a little bit of gaming the system in terms of what do I know, what do I not know. I think that a lot of times you see on Shark Tank companies like crumbling, quote unquote, with these big finance type questions. And I'd say almost all the time when that happens, it's probably people just feeling the pressure, and also the edit that they're getting is showing the worst part of them, when in reality they probably know their margins and their price and whatever. Like you'll know those things about your business if you're going into Shark Tank, but there's different ways that like the show can portray it.
You're also in there, like we were in there for like 40 minutes, and obviously they edited it down to about 7
minutes exactly. So
just
not everything that's spoken
the best
is in
of
there.
the best.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like
So,
you said, it's showbiz.
Sam knows this about me in particular. Sam and I have done many speaking events and speaking engagements where we're going in front of hundreds of people. I mean, you guys went in front of hypothetically only 5 people in person, but millions of people through the, the TV world, right? But as much as I get excited about all of these speaking engagements, I feel my fear. I feel it underlying the entire time in lead up to that moment. And I'm like, I don't see life on the other side of this, because this is such a roadblock in my life that, oh my God, I'm so excited. I know I have to do it. This is important for our business. It's important for me. It's Shark Tank, right? Or in this case, it's speaking at a high school. And then you get there and you do it. Oftentimes I black out. I look back and I don't remember a single thing. It went well, and I give myself, so much shit for having so much fear going into it. Millie and Taylor, I'll start with you, Millie. What was the mindset going in? Let's be real.
I was the most anxious I've ever been in my entire life. Just like same as you, I overthink, like get nervous and just overthink what the experience could be like, and think about every scenario that could happen. But I think I totally blocked it out as well. I feel like there's so much that happened in that room that I couldn't remember if I tried. But I think at the end of the day, it's like you doing these things only helps and makes you stronger and allows you to feel better for the next, and just allows you to like be like, okay, cool, I did do this and I can do this, and just having those emotions as you're continuously going down that road, like you guys are always doing speaking engagements, it's going to get easier each and every time.
I also feel like it's a bit of autopilot. Like, all right, you're really nervous, and then once you start, like, you may black out what you're saying, but then after a few minutes, like, your body calms down and you're able to
totally
speak or whatnot.
Totally.
I mean, in my experience, that's what it's been like. But everyone goes through that, like, or not everyone. I'm sure really seasoned public speakers don't, but I would think most people feel like visceral reaction when they're about to speak in front of people.
You know what always brings me back and helps ground me when I have that fear? I'm like, holy shit, I'm shitting my pants, all that type of stuff. Is that feeling right after it's done. And I can go to Sam and be like, dude, we crushed that. It's a high.
Actually,
it's
the
such
best
a
feeling.
natural high. Whether you crushed it or not, you did it.
It's over. Yeah.
It's over, and you look back, you're like, I did that? That's incredible.
Yeah, it's awesome.
But you don't get there unless you push yourself into those positions of absolute fear. that allows you to then feel that moment. And I think that's really interesting about elevating and mental fortitude, right, Sam? Because I know you're the complete opposite.
Yeah, I mean, I love like the similarities I think between us and Millie and Taylor, right? Like everyone has their strengths, everyone has their weaknesses. I definitely love when Parker finishes and he's like, "Fuck yeah, we did it. Let's go." It's like that's my favorite thing in the world because I know how nervous he gets, and every single time he kills it, and I'm sure you both felt a very similar way. I think I want to take a minute to reflect. 2 years ago, you both came on this podcast talking to two guys virtually, and let's be honest, not that many listeners. And I remember you both being like, "I'm kind of nervous. Like, this is our first podcast. I don't really know what we're doing here." So kudos to you both. I mean, you both have exercised elevating and mental fortitude out the wazoo to be able to go onto Shark Tank and all the other public engagements that you've done, whether that's in-person events or more podcasts. So you guys have certainly grown and elevated, and we're so proud of you guys.
Yeah, that's actually a really fair point. I do feel like 2 years ago, I was like shaking to record this podcast. And despite the fact that we haven't really been on that many podcasts in the last few years, it's gotten easier to talk about our business because it's become more real.
Yeah.
You guys have solidified your story. You've solidified what you guys embody. And I think you've certainly learned a lot over the past 2 years, which brings to me a new point that I want to discuss. And we talk a lot about mindset and having this concept of mental fortitude for Parker and I. That's the missing piece that I think a lot of young adults are looking for that they don't necessarily get from school. And that's what we're trying to teach in Elevation Nation when we go around the country and talk to young adults. And so this concept of mental fortitude to us is, I'll remind you both, since it's been 2 years, it's your vision, knowing where you want to go. It's yourself, knowing who you are, and your fuel, what drives you to get there. And I know you both have exuded mental fortitude in many different ways. Shark Tank painted a beautiful picture of you both, but I know that's not the reality behind the scenes every day with running a business. Can you tell us maybe an example of a story of when your mental fortitude was challenged as friends, as co-founders, as running a business, and how you guys overcame that?
I'd say as like Taylor and I do a really great job as co-founders and friends of, I mean, it's exactly what our episode was about last time, but just balance and like really balancing life and running a business and friendship and working together and all of these things. But in terms of the business itself, I'd say last year around this time, we got a full container of defective inventory. And it felt like it was the end of the world because we were out of stock. We didn't have mats to sell, and we didn't really know what to do because all this inventory had just arrived to us that we were supposed to be selling, and we didn't feel comfortable selling it because it wasn't up to the standards of what we'd want out there. We went, to our warehouse, checked it out ourselves, and just realized like, okay, we need to donate this and figure out another plan. So that's what we did. We donated, that product, and we, gave it to kids in need in Milwaukee, and we kept, everything on pre-order and just did everything we could to keep the business, going, and ordered new mats. And yeah, but I feel like that was definitely a time where it was like, shit, like we don't have mats here to sell.
And Millie, let me emphasize too. Oh, sorry, Taylor. I was just going to say, like, for people that are like, well, okay, you just order new ones and then they come in. Like, this is a long process, like procurement and supply chain, especially like post-COVID times. It's not like you snap your fingers and they'll send you a whole new batch of a shipping container full of Stakt mats. Like, this was a big issue because it's put a huge bottleneck in your supply chain. I just wanted to highlight that because I think sometimes people think it just happens overnight.
Yeah, totally. Temu or Timu, however you pronounce that company, has made us believe that it comes overnight. But basically, what Millie is talking about was definitely one of like the, I guess, biggest challenges for us in our business so far. because it had a domino effect. It wasn't just that month or the pre-orders. We had to wait a number of months to restock. It sunk our revenue, it sunk our profits for a few months, and it ultimately led to a cash flow issue, which forced us to take 1 month without pay, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but like when you're already getting paid next to nothing and you've quit your job to like put everything into your business, it was this one silly mistake that led to a number of effects, and we definitely learned from it. We've diversified our supply chain since, and that's been like, or is huge for us, or will be huge for us, because we don't expect to have issues like that again, or at least this specific issue, because we're protecting ourselves, I guess.
Yeah. And I think through obviously, any challenge that you face, you learn from it and you're able to grow from it. And, when you face something, hopefully not the same thing, but something that could be, looked at similarly, you know what to do, or at least can handle it in a more effective way.
Have you guys read Simon Sinek's Infinite Game book? Incredible book. It just talks about, I'm not going to go much into it, but it talks about how you should look at business not as a finite game, a game that ends in a win or a loss. It's an infinite game that you're playing. And that game is, as long as you're in business and you're staying in business, you are technically winning. And so I commend you guys that you stay composed and you didn't just say, oh, shit, we're done. This is over. There's always ways around certain situations. And you guys are smart. You're well connected. You know what you're doing. You probably had to take some moment to get that emotion away, but then bring rational and logical thought. Okay, how do we fix this? And look what you guys did. You fixed it. Things are going great. And now you learn from that experience, and you're playing in a much better game now too, because of that experience and that quote unquote mishap.
Yeah, I love that. I definitely want to read that, because I think we talk about that a lot. Even if this were to go nowhere, however this all ends, because all good things come to an end, whether that's a positive end or a negative end or somewhere in between, like we always say, how cool is it? We work for ourselves. I'm coming on a 1.5 years working for myself and working with my best friend, and we are going to LA and London and China and wherever else around the world for work this year. It's like, okay, this could all come crashing down, and we had a lot of fun, and we're able to, quit our 9 to 5s and put our life into this. So it's
Wouldn't
been good.
change it for a second.
100%.
Hell yeah. Love that. All right, let's keep the podcast moving. We have a new section that you guys did not get on the original podcast we did with you. I think it's been fun. Sam and I have been testing it with a few people the last couple months. It's all around, we're going to create some scenarios, and we want to hear how you guys would approach that scenario, or the advice that you would have to our listeners around how you approach that scenario. So I'll start with the first one. This is as basic as it gets. What's your advice to a new founder who has an amazing idea? They work full time. How would you recommend that they balance that time? Even though they love the idea so much, but they still have to work to get their, jobs, their bills paid.
I would say like time block. So know that, X amount of time in your day you can give to your idea, your startup, or whatever it is. And I guess my other piece of advice would be, like fill your cup first. So don't put everything, all of your hours into your business outside of work, and then have 0 hours for your friends and your family. That probably will not work out well in the end. So just find ways to time block, like section off your day and set hours for both your business and your day job and your friends and your family. And I know that's easier said than done. That would be like the only way that like my head can think about it. And then like use the weekends wisely. Like obviously it depends how old you are, where you are in your life, but your weekends can be for rest, but you can also probably find a couple hours a day on a Sunday or Saturday afternoon to work on your passion project.
Totally. I think
Yeah.
that's good advice.
I agree
Millie,
with
anything
that.
to add, or you want to take scenario 2? Up to you.
No, I agree with that. I'll take scenario number 2.
Okay. Scenario 2. I know all 4 of us absolutely love networking and meeting new people. I know we're constantly sending folks to each other to meet and introduce. But networking is hard. It's overwhelming, especially when you're either working a 9 to 5 or running a business. So how do you both strategize building your networks for either Stakt or personally on top of everything else that you do besides coming on our podcast?
That's a great question. I think in terms of strategizing, it's for me, honestly, it's if I'm speaking to someone and I can connect them with someone else, or if I am having a conversation and they can connect me with someone, I think it's all time and place and just networking, networking to grow your network to then help you later on or introduce someone to someone else. But 2, I think you never know how someone can be there for you, whether it's business, personal, whatever it might be. So I think in terms of like strategizing, I don't know if I have a strategy or if it's more so just never back away from a conversation or back away from someone who, is there to network with, because you never know what that person can bring into your life.
I agree. And I would just add to that from like a more tactical perspective as a product-based business. One thing that we like to do is seed gifts, seed mats and product to people. And I think in the beginning we were so stingy about it, and we only sent to like influencers or people that we saw of like high value for whatever that means. And now it's like anyone that is either helping us or we're having a conversation with, or they're kind to, whatever it is, like if we've networked with you and we want to say thank you, like you'll be on our list of people that we're going to seed a gift to, which is a really simple way for like a product-based company to continue to like tap into their network and build their network and maintain those relationships, because it basically costs you nothing, and the person on the other end of it is like, oh cool, I met these girls and now I get to try their product. There's not much to it. So that may sound
I
like
also think it keeps you
taboo,
top of mind.
Yeah.
It also keeps you top
That's
of
true.
mind too, if like they're using your product or, if they have a connection, whatever it might be.
It's funny that you both said that, of kind of gifting, because Parker and I, we have our show notes that we talk to each other throughout the podcast. And I just earlier, when you were talking about Parker Simon Sinek's book, we both kind of wrote at the same time, let's buy the book for the girls. So we're going to be sending you both that book. We don't have a product.
Brand new Stakt mats.
There we go. I love it. We don't have a product to give. So one thing that we love to do is, we talk about the books and business and all that we read. And I think that's a nice way too. So to your points, don't overlook someone as not having enough value. You have no idea what current or future value they could add. So I love that.
Totally.
All right, last scenario, because I did write this and I should have put it first because I think it's really an interesting question. I'm curious what you guys think. So obviously, like daily grind of work, it goes on. You guys are building Stakt, a lot happening every day, each and every day, and you're in the weeds some days more than others. How are you able to level set your passion for Stakt that got you the inspiration to really go hard on it at the beginning and make it a reality, when sometimes that inspiration kind of falls away? Like, how do you bring that back into your world when you lose it?
I love that question, because I think we used to feel this like roller coaster of emotion when it comes to inspiration, where on a really good day, it's like you're so inspired, and on a really bad day, you're not inspired. Like, this is never going to work. This is going to work. I'm not sure if this is answering your question, if this is what you meant, but so for us, I think that still happens, but like less on, it's like not on as big of a scale, if that makes sense. So for example, if we get good press, like last year we got Time Magazine's top 100 inventions for the fitness category. We were the winner, and that felt really, really good. And then there could be a month, no press, sales are medium. It doesn't feel that bad anymore because we know that we can like plan for the future. We have a real business. Sales are going to ebb and flow. So that inspiration, I guess, it used to be drawn upon from like accolades and recognition. And now I feel like the inspiration has to come from more like intrinsic things or like real things, if that makes sense. So we meet another founder who's really excited about their business and we feel inspired. Or we went to a founders dinner a few weeks ago and we felt so inspired just like hearing people talk and all of this stuff. And I say this all to just say like I feel like it used to be very accolade driven and sales driven, and now our inspiration comes from like more organic, just like feeding off of other people, feeding off of each other, and getting excited about the future of our business.
That's what I was gonna say. I feel like we like completely agree. Everything was based on like, was today a good day, or did something like good happen today or not good happen today? And now we really are able to like, there's so much in the works all the time that we're able to get inspired based on what's happening and what we know is happening. Maybe it's not today, maybe it's not in a month from now, maybe it's 6 months from now, but we're able to really get inspired by these things and know that these things are going to continuously inspire us. And it's funny because like when we first started, we were probably planning for like that month or like a month in advance. And now we're really planning for, the end of this year, holiday 2025, and being able to get excited about these things that will be.
Yeah. So I guess planning for our future and like the future of the business just inspires us. And there's always something to tap into. Like Millie's saying, you could get excited about something 6 months out. Formerly, it was just what was on our plate right now.
Yeah.
I know Parker asked that question because we're looking for advice from you guys who are much further along than where we want to go. And I'm reading between the lines because I am that emotional roller coaster that he has to deal with from a therapy standpoint of being my co-founder because I have incredible days and then horrible days where I'm like, what are we doing, man? And I think it's refreshing to hear that you guys are in a similar situation. And as the business matures, you start to calm the heck down and be like, all right, we have something legit here. So
I just want to add.
Did I read that
normal.
Right?
I just want to add, it's not good days and bad days. I don't believe in that. You don't have a good day and a bad day. You have a day filled of good moments, okay moments, and bad moments. And you have to go to bed, and I go to bed every night, and I look back and be like, yeah, some moments were absolutely the worst ever, some were the best. That was a full day.
I like that.
I like that. Every single day, you should strive for a full day. Because a good day,
I like that.
If it's always good, what is good? Right?
So true. I really like that.
So true.
That was deep, man. Really deep. All right.
You know
We're gonna
how
move
it is.
into a fun segment. Conscious of time here. This is our rapid fire section. We just have a couple questions. We'll do one for each of you guys just to keep us moving here. This is an interesting one. I don't know if something's going to come up top of head, so I'm going to let either of you answer this. But you created a product that, sure, there are certain ways you're supposed to use it, right? It's a yoga mat. It's functional for different workouts. It folds up. It stores great. But people are creative out there, especially with how many you've sold. Have you heard of any crazy ways that folks are using their Stakt mat in a way that you did not describe? One that's coming to mind that I'm looking at my setup right now is I think it'd be pretty good to boost your second monitor on your desk. I wonder if anyone's done that. Have you heard of any other stories?
I'm cracking up because we need to send you the TikTok. We created a TikTok of like all these different ways people were using their Stakt mats because this like it's so people are creative. I mean, people are creative even in the sense of like we thought of these few ways to use it, and even with working out, people are using it in different ways. But I'm trying to think the craziest one. One of my friend's sisters. One of my friend's sisters moved and they didn't have a table and they used their Stakt mat with like the straps on as a table to eat their food.
I was gonna say that, and then also
I love that.
At my rehearsal dinner, one of Alex's friends, he's short. He's probably like 5'6" or 5'7". He's probably not going to be happy that I'm airing this on your podcast. So he brought Stakt mat with him to give him some height for his speech. Just plunk it down
No
on the
way.
floor.
That's
Yeah.
great.
It's very funny. People have shown us very funny ways to use it. And then, like,
I've used it
I also
personally as a. Oh, keep going.
I was just gonna say, I feel like there's also like so many serious ways that we learn how to use it,
Yeah.
and we're like, we didn't make, like, we had no idea that you could even do this. So that's like very cool too.
I've personally used it as like a dog gate. If I broke a glass in the kitchen and I didn't want my dog to get into the kitchen, so I set it up like a gate so you wouldn't get in.
So I'm not gonna lie, Parker's wedding is coming up in 9 weeks, and I'm giving a speech as
You need
one
a
of the best
boost.
men.
You
And
need a
I
Stack
might
Mat
need a boost. So I might need a Stack Mat boost, and we might have to
bring
make
two
a
with you.
TikTok of it. Parker, how would JJ feel about that? Is she okay? A little boost, a little stage for me.
I think
Are you
that's
short,
great.
Sam?
I think
I've
it's a
never
great
met you in
idea.
You're
person.
never gonna know, Taylor. I'm virtual, so you're never gonna know. It's always good to have a stage
Craziest
presence.
thing. How like
Yeah.
you think of people in certain ways, and then you meet them in person, and they're taller or shorter, or like all these. Just the virtual life is so interesting.
It's so
We're
true.
just
So
a tiny
interesting.
square.
Yeah.
All right, next one. Here we go. What bucket of your life do you guys want to prioritize more, and why?
This is going to sound insane because I should be prioritizing it a lot considering the industry we're in. But my fitness and health journey, I want to put a higher emphasis on like really honing in on that for myself. And I also think the reason being is like the reason that's my answer is because I have spent the last 2 years being so obsessed with like work, family, and friends buckets that I think my goal for the year when I went into 2024 was to listen to my body more and just like care a lot about like my physical health. So that's my bucket.
I feel like my bucket is just like taking time for me. I feel like I often am giving time, like Taylor said, to friends, family, work, and like being selfish and being like, okay, I need this time for me. I feel like I don't prioritize that enough.
Beautiful answers. I love those. It's always important, no matter how busy or successful you are, to take some time for yourself. All right. This brings us now to our last section. We asked this last time. It's our favorite segment of the podcast because every single elevator has one. Parker and I have one. And we're on a mission to spread this to 1 million young adults. We're speaking in New York twice in the upcoming months to spread it to high school kids from the Bronx. We're so excited. It's our concept of a mental motto, a phrase that embodies who you are, that you live your life by. So we're curious. 2 years later, you guys just re-listened to your old episodes. Have they stayed the same? Have they changed? Millie, let's start with you.
I still stand strong with my motto, like celebrating the small wins. I mean, I feel like especially now it's so important because I mean, 2 years later, it's like these things that now I probably think of as small will be the same thing in 2 years when I listen back at this episode. I'm like, wait, that was huge for us then. So just celebrating the small things in the moment, so that way, you know, you're always having those good moments in your day, like Parker said.
So my mental motto 2 years ago was don't believe everything you think. And while I definitely, like, it definitely reigns true, and I definitely agree with that mental motto, coming into this podcast, I really wanted to think of, like, what is my new mental motto? And I actually thought about this all day, and you guys are going to laugh at this, but my new mental motto, and I can definitely go into why it's deeper than it is going to sound, is you got to fight for your right to party. So, it's Travis Kelce / Beastie Boys original, but that's my mental motto. And I think work hard, play hard is the theme of our business and our lives and what we're doing here.
Hell yeah. You better believe I'm playing that song later.
What a way to end that day.
Yeah, that was great. I feel fired up. One, because the song's awesome. And two, I because I think it's really cool, the idea of a mental motto. To your point, Millie, it remained the same. It grounds you and it continues to ground you as you go through your journey to elevate. And then Taylor, you changed yours because things have changed. And you just need a little bit more, deeper meaning to you, a little song. You could throw that song on, and it's a reminder that you got to fight for your right to party. And that's what's amazing about the mental mottos, that everyone can have one. You can have one that lasts years and years and years, or you can change yours tomorrow. But you got to do the hard work to think about what's right for you, what you want, and what inspires you. And that's where elevating starts. And you guys are elevating the heck out of your life, heck out of Stakt, heck out of us. Sam and I feel elevated. And we are just so grateful that we were able to get you guys for another 40 minutes on the Elevation Nation podcast. And I know it won't be the last time, because we're still elevating and we're still going with this thing too.
Yeah, we can't wait to come back in 2 years, and hopefully we'll have some bigger updates.
Yeah, I feel like we go on the podcast, all these things happen, so let's do it again.
It's perfect. We'll be a catalyst. We don't mind.
Yeah.
Ladies, it's a pleasure. We love you both. Elevation Nation, check out the Stakt mat. We will link to it in the bio so you can get one for yourselves for, I don't know, maybe a doggy gate, a boost at a wedding, or perhaps what it was actually made for, an incredible functional yoga mat and workout equipment. Check it out. You won't be disappointed. Until next week, peace. Guys.